Today on Homeworthy, we're exploring the vibrant Palm Beach home designs that perfectly blend history, charm, and personality. First, we'll tour a 1920s Spanish-style home that combines vintage style with modern elegance. Next, we step inside a vintage-filled home where Floridian charm and timeless elegance take center stage. Then we'll visit a Palm Beach home that showcases the perfect mix of South African influences and expert design. Finally, we'll explore a whimsical retreat in a 1940s British Colonial home where bold design meets playful eccentricity. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Corinne. Welcome to my home in West Palm Beach. I'd love to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi there, my name is Corinne Belock. I'm the owner of Palm Beach Regency, a vintage furniture business here in West Palm Beach. So we are sitting in the entryway of our home here in El Cid in West Palm Beach. El Cid is a historic neighborhood very close to downtown West Palm Beach, and we live in a 1920s style Mediterranean home. It's very well known throughout the neighborhood that the homes were built in the 1920s, and many of them are in this style. The thing that's really fun about our home is it's historically marked as 1924, but actually we did a little research with the city and the first structure was built here in 1905, so there's a possibility it's one of the oldest houses in El Cid. So I can tell you a little bit about how we stumbled across this house. A very dear friend of mine lived 2 doors down. We're on Dyer Road, and I was at a tennis lesson and I get a text when I get out and she's like, "There's a home for sale on my street." I immediately left the tennis lesson and drove by and saw that there was an open house sign up, which I thought was perfect. So I walk right into the open house, and funny enough, it was an open house for realtors because this is the first home we've ever purchased. So I had no idea how it worked. But I immediately walked in and could see the flow of the place, could see how we could make it our own. And so it was a really exciting find that day, to be sure. My immediate reaction was, oh my gosh, there's so much light and so many windows. So my biggest fear about having an old home is that the windows would have to be redone completely. But we got so lucky that the windows are all original to the home, and in fact had even better hurricane glass already put in. So the light was a big draw for me. And then the other thing, which isn't a draw for everyone, but is a major draw for my husband and I, is that they're really well-defined rooms. So our home isn't open concept. It creates cozy nooks for spaces, which I guess I've always been drawn to. So those were the 2 things that really intrigued me about the home. My husband and I own Palm Beach Regency, which is a vintage furniture business down here in West Palm Beach. And we purchased the business 3 years ago. So prior to that, we had lived in a rental on Palm Beach Island and then purchased this as our first home. So in furnishing our rental and then this house, I shopped at Palm Beach Regency all the time and really fell in love with the rattan and the islandy style of that decor. And so that really started to inform how I wanted my forever home to be. So Palm Beach Regency had a big play in that, and then now as owners, it's pretty fascinating because when I find something I love, it's really hard because I do need to sell it, but at the same time, I try to bring home a treasure like once or twice a year that's really gonna be a forever piece in my home. So we are in the entry living room of our home at 320 Dyer, and the thing that's interesting about Florida entryways is that you really come right off the door into the space. So there's no coat rack, there's no place for storage. This is just where you come right in. So decorating it was actually kind of a challenge. This room is really, to me, has some of the most vintage throughout the home, from the storage piece where I keep our party gear. This is like all the July 4th stuff, birthday stuff, all that weird stuff you collect. To the central table, that's a really fun rattan piece from Palm Beach Regency. I'm not a particularly like clutter heavy person, but when I find something I love, it always has a home. So this is the OCD part where the pink bird faces the doorway at all times. I know, I'm a weirdo, so this is an adorable bird. Surprisingly, he's not vintage. He's from another local dealer that does imports down here in Florida, but I just fell in love with it. I am overly sensitive to the fact that I can't have this home be all pink and green because I would if I could, but my husband lives here too. So within every space, I try to incorporate something that he loves or something that I know is like within his comfort zone. So obviously, Bruce Springsteen, books, and he's a big reader, as am I. So our home is sprinkled with books, which you'll see throughout, but a lot of these are really meaningful to him or to the both of us. And then I'd like to share that this is a faux orchid from Palm Bungalow in West Palm. You would never know. I am busy, so I have no shame. It's the best fake that I could find. It's incredible. I probably struggled with the layout in this room more than anything because I'm all about like usefulness within a room, and sometimes this room is just meant to be pretty. So we have a bit of a seating area over here, which also is heavily featured with Palm Beach Regency vintage pieces. If I have a girlfriend over, maybe we'll have a cocktail here, especially in the summer in Florida when it can be super duper hot. It's sometimes nice to be able to like have a cocktail inside. I know that sounds crazy, but it is so hot. This little jail cell that we have created here, no, just kidding, this is super old. I have no idea who or what this is about, but we had to keep it because weird details, I'm all about it. When I grew up, we had a willow tree in our yard. And so when I found this on Stray Dog Designs, I absolutely fell in love. The green was the perfect shade of green, and it was called the Willow Tree Chandelier or something like that. So it just really evoked so many like happy childhood memories. I love this piece, and it just sets the tone for the entire room. This is what I would call the COVID chaise. So during COVID, I was lounging quite a bit because I couldn't work and I had a lot of free time. So this got a lot of use during that time. I hope one day again to be lounging here as much as possible. So I did a collection of course, pink and green because that's the overall sort of color theme for this room, but it was truly inspired by this textile that I found in Chichicastenango in Guatemala that I literally got chased down the street for because I love like crazy shopping experiences, but it really set the tone. And so I tried to pull some of these colors. You know, some of these are like Suriname lily pillows. This one's from Mexico. This one was God knows where, how old it is. And you know, I really ground everything. You know, my textiles and my budget are somewhat, you know, normal. So I use a umbrella fabric sometimes just to like make it all come together, and you'll see a lot of stripes throughout the house. So that's kind of where that comes from. I love traveling in Guatemala. It's an incredible place, one of my favorite cities. I'm hoping to go back there in September. But my girlfriend and I went out to Chichicastenango, which is this incredible market in, it's not in a major city. It's kind of like a 3-hour drive from a major city in Guatemala. And we immediately get out and we're just going nuts. I mean, the textiles, the colors, the everything. Well, me being sort of responsible, I saw this piece and was passing on it. Not because I wasn't gonna come back, but literally I was just like, well, we just got here. Like, is it the first thing I buy? You know, I just was, sometimes I get a little cautious on that. But this woman was convinced that this was for me and literally followed us throughout the market. So after like 10 minutes of her following us, and she was being adorable and sweet, and we were laughing through the whole thing. But the funny thing is, literally 10 minutes is all it took. I was like, give it to me, it's mine. And literally, it's one of my favorite things in my home, along with some other pillows that she chased me down for. But those are the kind of adventures that I love to have, and they always create the best pieces, in your home. I would say that the biggest inspiration for me over the last 15 years has definitely been travel. We started traveling when we lived in New York City to the Caribbean, and that was an immediate sort of, let's just get out of the city, let's get somewhere warm and beautiful. But I was really fortunate over the last 10 years to travel quite extensively, through Morocco, Europe, and also through Central and South America. And Mexico as well. So those places have really informed a lot of my inspiration into my own home. Everything from the colors and textiles to collecting individual handmade pieces. That's all a huge part of the stuff I love in homes, things that you can't find anywhere else. And so it's really interesting now to do that with actual vintage found in South Florida, because I have a love for things that are just unique and one of a kind. So when I find it, I want other people to have that in their homes as well, just to give every home a sense of it's not like anyone else's. You would never see this anywhere else. That's always my goal when I'm trying to decide how to, finish off a room. So now I want to take you into the office in the house. Prior to us buying Palm Beach Regency, this was actually my office. I used it when I had a home organization business, so the decor color scheme was just a little bit different. So now that I spend all my time working at Palm Beach Regency in the warehouse of the showroom, I transitioned it to my husband's office. So I made the colors just a smidge more masculine. I went with blues because they work well with the other colors we have in the home. So nothing too wild or crazy, but I love this space. The first most remarkable thing about it, maybe one of the things that drew me to the home, were the original Cuban tile floors. So we didn't touch these guys. We left all the original spots and patina and everything that makes it charming. I don't even know the last time they've been swept, to be honest. So it's really natural in here. Otherwise, really just went with something that would keep the light in the room. So I didn't want to focus on anything covering the windows. We're really okay if you want to peek in my home and see me working at my desk. Go ahead, it's really fascinating. So we kept the light flowing into this space really well. As a former organizer, I am a bit about a clean desk policy, I know. So the glass desk, I think, was from Wisteria. It's super heavy, but it is the kind of piece that lets the floor shine. And then obviously storage, not that that's sexy, but I mean, you gotta have practical storage in an office. So this is a photo of two little babies, actually. My husband and I, this is, I think, we met in 2004 and we got married in 2010. And this photo is, I think, from 2005. So it was one of the original, your best friend's wedding photos. And I love it. And it reminds me of how young I used to look. And he used to look. And so we've been married since 2010, and he works with me full-time in the business. He does some consulting stuff, but he primarily works with me in the business, and it's amazing. I mean, it's hard, but it's amazing. One thing you'll see in this office is the first of many, which is I travel to Morocco, and I can't not buy poofs. Somebody can tell me that poofs are overdone. I still keep finding a way to work them into every room in my home. And so this is what I would call the masculine poof for my husband's office. So that was a good compromise. So that's a fun detail there. And then the other thing I love in this room is this chair, which we got when we moved for the first time out of New York City. It was our first big purchase. I mean, I think it's from, again, I think it was Wisteria that made it, but it's just a beautiful modernist style chair that who knew it would work so perfectly in Florida all these years later and sort of become a piece that I'm just so fond of and reminds me of those first purchases for sure. In those travels to Chichicastenango, one of the things they do in that portion of Guatemala, in areas of Guatemala, are these amazing bird embroidery pieces. So this piece was originally in my office as well. I fell in love with like the black and white split on the textile. And then funny enough, when we transitioned this to be DJ's office, it just perfectly worked. So, you know, other than switching out like a pillow here or, you know, some storage bins, it just like the space all tied together so easily. When we started furnishing this home and any, you know, our homes that are rental on the island and everything else, I will find rattan wherever I can find it. This is a Serena Lily light fixture. We actually even had this in our first house the time we moved out of New York City many, many years ago. And so it has been now through 3 homes with us. And I just love it. The simple arch of it really mimics the arches that are shown kind of throughout the house. And it doesn't distract, again, from the most important piece in the house, which is the, you know, the Cuban tile floors in this space. So now we're gonna walk into our dining room, which is just off the office. This is probably the most commented on piece in our home, which is the ping pong dining room table. I saw this in coastal living before we even bought the house, and a designer out of the panhandle of Florida had done it for a custom piece for a coastal living home. Her name is Erica Powell. And I was obsessed with it and had no idea if I even had a dining room that it would ever fit it, but it was like the first thing that I needed to get as soon as we found a home. Luckily enough, I got it. I secured it. I fell in love with the seafoam color. I picked the chartreuse color base, which I'm still obsessed with generally as a color. And it is amazing. The thing I love about it is it seats 8. So when we're ready to entertain, we literally just pull up these vintage Brighton chairs to the ends. We got our paddles here. We pull up these to the ends of the table. It seats 8, and when we're not using it, I use it as a display for like a beautiful page of an open book, for example. This poolside with slim errands just always gets me in a vintage mood, but I just walk past and find a new page, and this one's speaking to me today. My friend is a florist. I don't always have these beautiful flowers here. I would like to say maybe I'll have like an orchid from the grocery store, but today I've got these beautiful blooms that she made for me when she was in town. This is an adorable little pineapple, like, I don't know, cookie jar or something. That's what we keep the ping pong balls in. And then, of course, our paddles are on a elegance dish, which could also be put here. I might need to invest in some different paddles because the last time my husband and his buddy were playing, there was a bit more scraping than I'm comfortable with, and some little blue lines were left on the table. So, you know, I would say this. It's for some light ping pong. We're not looking to scratch anybody's dining table. I love it too much, but it is a fun place to gather, a fun place to have dinner, and it's absolutely a conversation starter. So that's probably the extent of the ping pong that gets played. Another shell, I feel like the blush color on it, the yellowing matte, I just fell in love with this piece. I bought it at a local secondhand store well before I owned Palm Beach Regency. And I just love the scale of it. It brings me joy. It's airy, it's light. So that's my, you know, definitely set the tone after the dining table for this space. I would describe my style as fairly laid back. We are lovers of the Caribbean, lovers of the islands. So I think I drew a lot of inspiration from that over the years. So I would say laid back, a little bit coastal, but a little on the island side of coastal. And I think, you know, the other thing is it's pretty clean. I like spaces not too overly cluttered. So that's how I would probably describe it. I'd love to show you my butler's pantry and my kitchen, so follow me. So this is obviously an original detail to the home. We didn't want to touch it at all, to be honest. I fell in love with the old hardware on the house. I'm sorry, on the Butler pantry doors. I fell in love with it. The old tingy glass. And, you know, the only thing that I would say updated it is that I really tried to go with a theme in the color. So if you look up, we had the first of many, not the first, the third of many, many stripes throughout the home, and a simple sort of modern, leather chandelier, right? Or light fixture. So that blue tone really set the theme for me. And funny enough, over the years, I had collected blues and tones of blues in glassware and things. Really simple, nothing fancy. A lot of it collected through travels in Marrakesh and other countries, bowls and dishes and all that stuff. So I would say that's what really set the tone in here. This vintage glassware just like sums up the color perfectly. It's like the color of the ocean. And so that's kind of what we wanted to go for in here. We kept the original to purchase mahogany countertops in here. You'll see in the kitchen we have very little storage, but like I have got all the storage I need down here for pots and pans and everything. So the kitchen footprint is small, but with the Butler's pantry, it's more than enough for our family to sort of use and love. The other thing I would point out, because this is a little nod to my husband, so this is the Ode to Cleveland. My husband grew up in Cleveland. His mother had originally given him this poster in motion for the millennium in 1999, so now you know how old we are. And I found this original photography about Cleveland, and I just like to bring his personality into this space as much as possible. So moving from my little nook into our kitchen. So the kitchen was kind of interesting. When we purchased it, I didn't love what was going on here, but I also knew that I didn't have much budget to change any footprint of it. So I was like, how do we make this work? So the main thing is we kept the original mahogany countertops. So to me, in this kitchen, I feel like I am in a Caribbean home kitchen, right? So it's got mahogany countertops, crisp white walls, things that speak to like a Caribbean vibe to me. And so I really embraced that in the color theme as well. So I went with yellow and green, which is like always one of my favorite color combinations. So I'm shocked. I, of course, found a way to work that into the home overall. A friend of mine who's a local potter, her business is called Avenue Pottery. She hand did the tile, the mermaid tile behind the stove. So that backsplash is such a really special detail for us. And then I love things like pineapple baskets, of which I will pick up on all of my travels. So one of my favorite things about this kitchen is also the nooks. So there's another nook here, which is our bar. So before we were able to renovate the guest house, we definitely needed somewhere to gather with friends and pour drinks and have fun. So this was it, and we had to keep it because honestly, again, the summer heat can be intense, so a bar inside's not the worst thing. Some of my favorite things here are the art, to be honest. Meaningful photographs. This is the location where we were married in Anguilla in the British West Indies. And then this was the actual, a friend of mine had our wedding location sketched. And you'll see the differences, but this was pre-hurricane and it was renovated for the post-hurricane. We honeymooned in Mystique, so that's a wonderful Slim Aaron's photo from Mystique, which always makes nice memories. My husband's Irish, so we have this Irish man here. And, overall collected and loved, and vintage bar books, all that stuff is such a fun thing to collect and find. So I guess I do have a collection issue, now that I think about it. So I don't have like one set collection. I feel like I sell things when I find them, so that's a little bit tough for me to say, but I will say this. If you count the number of chairs in this home, you will be shocked. It is so many for 2 people who live here. That's a pretty ridiculous thing. And then I would say I'm also drawn to lamps. I could buy lamps and switch out lamps all day long in this home. The only thing stopping me is that our lamps sell really fast, so I don't even get a chance to bring them home. For me, the old vintage, unique pieces give a home soul. They create a story. They remind you of experiences in travel. They remind you of your wedding day or whenever your children were born or whatever it is. And so I think the collections are the most special thing about a home. So before we head upstairs, you have to see this amazing shell mirror that I had made. So a gal that worked for me that does a ton of custom shell mirrors had this made specifically for me. Of course I said, go pink. I'll always love pink, I just know that. And this version of it is a little bit wild and crazy. I wanted it to feel like almost like organically put together, not too pretty, not too perfect, kind of just like the home. I like it to be a little bit fun and funky. Welcome to our primary bathroom upstairs. So this is probably the other space that made me fall in love with the home. It's the original Florida porch off the house. So at one point this was a fully open structure, and prior to us moving here, someone had renovated it very smartly into the primary bathroom off the master bedroom. I fell in love with this. The original Pecky ceilings are just stunning. You know, these have barely been wiped of cobwebs. I mean, we keep it really natural in here, and I love it. It has this like island Caribbean, like I come home every day from Palm Beach Regency and my feet are aching and I'm exhausted, and I hop into this tub. And we got incredibly lucky on the master bathroom that we didn't have to do extreme stuff, right? So the tub was actually here and the shower was here, and the tile works for me. Maybe it wouldn't have been like my first choice in the entire world, but budget-wise and color-wise, it reminds me of sand, which sort of went with the overall vibe I was hoping for. And so we ended up keeping it, and the layout was perfect. We actually did redo both the his and hers vanities and had custom vanities made and put in. And so that was the biggest upgrade, as well as hardware, mirror, sinks, faucets, all that stuff, just to give it a more modernized look and feel and to keep it light and airy, just like we were hoping this bathroom would feel. So now I'd love to show you the guest bedroom upstairs. Follow me. So welcome to the guest bedroom in the main house. This is where, when you come visit me, you can stay. This is a really interesting space. To be completely honest, it really was at first a mishmash of all the pieces after we decorated that I didn't quite know where to put, but somehow it just like tied all together. Starting with the light fixture in this room, this was one of the first pieces, and it's not vintage, to be completely honest. I think it's PB teen, something crazy, right? But this was before I was able to find vintage versions of this, and I collected it, and it's a precious palm leaf. The scale of it's always good for an old home because it's not too big. That's sometimes hard to find in tall chandeliers. So I love that guy, so fun. And then my other favorite thing, it reminds me of a tennis club, like you just walked into a tennis club and you want to put on tennis whites and play. Again, the only thing that has touched this chair in the last 60 years is probably my Clorox wipes, because I did not change a thing about the upholstery. I kept all the original vinyl on it, and I just love it. Even like the little details. The piping in green, it's just perfect. So that guy also had to come home with me immediately when it walked in the store. I collected this Italian rattan bench in one of my early purchases at Palm Beach Regency. And as much as I love it, I knew in the primary bedroom, I wanted to go a little more old Hollywood kind of glam. So I was like, how do I work this in somewhere? It's perfect here. And I love this at the footboard. This is another key Palm Beach Regency find. We sell these like all day long, and these are the faux bamboo Thomas. I feel like I'm on a commercial for my store. I'm not. But I love this piece. It's such a great classic faux bamboo Thomasville chest. The golden color is what sold me on it for the space. When I'm doing a room, shockingly enough, I like white linen bedding, and I don't know if it's because I know I want to have fun with pillows and headboards and other fabrics that I bring in, and other textiles. Like this was the sister to my Chichi Castanego of mine below downstairs. And this has always been on the foot of every guest room we've had, and it just sets the color tone for every space. Again, the amazing little fun, somebody would have walked right past it, but I fell in love with it, rug from, I believe this one was from somewhere in Mexico. I'm blanking all of a sudden. But anyways, the colors were perfect. I used the guest bedroom to put pieces that otherwise like just didn't fit somewhere. So this is a wonderful example, is like, you know, old photographs in frames that still have like sentimental value, but things that are orange didn't quite fit anywhere else, but when I tied it with the Marrakesh flare, it somehow works along with blue. So it's just a room and a space for me to fully experiment with color, whereas in some of the other spaces I try to like rein myself in. It's pretty hard, but I do try. So when we purchased the house, we didn't have to touch the main home. The structures, you know, was all intact. We didn't have to take out any walls or do any major work. And I love that about the main house. But the really fun part has been that we did have a full demo of the backyard guest house. And we really created a space that just works so perfectly for my husband and I. So we basically created an outdoor loggia bar, and we spend a lot of time out there with friends. We live in South Florida, so our friends from across the country visit all the time, and we spend, you know, almost 90% of our time out there hanging out and having fun and enjoying some cocktails. And so I would say that is definitely the thing that's most special and certainly unique to this home. Welcome to the guest house. This was a structure that really was a full gut renovation. So we're in a historic home, so we couldn't change the footprint of the size of the guest house, but we had that space to work with. So we essentially had to demo it down to the studs. They even poured new concrete because we were having some water drainage issues. So this really is a truly new structure for us that we created. And so the yellow and white Ballard couch pulls out to a queen bed, so we can sleep, you know, multiple sets of friends here at the same time, which is really fun. So we love to entertain and have friends in from out of town for that. And then moving into this, we use it in the summer quite a bit as well. When it's too hot to sit outside, just grab a drink at the bar and come in here. So that's what we sort of love to do. I would say that one of the most unique things, it's probably not for everyone, but it's definitely for me and my husband, is the photography on the walls in the guest house. So I knew that I wanted to go a little more crisp and clean, not too overly collected in this space. I wanted it to feel very much the style of our home, but also a little bit like it was a little vacation for someone, right? So a little bit of like a little hotel vibe, a funky hotel vibe. So we picked a really clear color theme, yellow. Green here is a neutral for us in this house. So yellow is the big color statement, but I knew I wanted black and white photography. So this is Steven Spielberg in the mouth of Jaws, which is bizarre, but I love. Jaws is one of my favorite movies. To me, it says summer. So when I have friends come from the north to stay, hopefully they see Jaws and they just think about their best summer memory that they've ever had. So that's sort of the tie-in. And then there's a piece of work, photography in the guest bathroom as well, that ties the two together. That's really fun. We decided to make one corner of the room into a banquette, and we have storage underneath these seats. So it's amazing. Again, the stripes throughout, and this space in particular has a ton of PBR finds, mainly because when we were building it, we had already become owners of Palm Beach Regency. So I was like, we can't buy anything, must come from the store. So everything from the big round oyster shell mural on the wall to the Saarinen table, which I was lucky enough to find and went immediately in my car because I knew I had a spot for it, to the side tables, the chairs, the screen, which we use here for privacy when we have guests. I was nervous about the space being too dark, but our trick to it was to make this a window. It had to actually be a window because of our historical regulations. It had to be a garage door front, actually. So we did a little trick where we built a garage door front for inspection. Okay, now I'm telling all the sins. And we put the mirror behind it, sorry, the window behind it. So after inspection, we just had to take down the front, and we had this mirror right here. So for privacy when guests stay, we just pull the screen across, and it's like the best thing. So when I picked the color theme of yellow, it was like vintage Smeg fridge is a must. So luckily they make these new, it's not vintage, and it was just totally set the tone for the space. Yellow is one of my favorite colors, makes me incredibly happy, so hopefully I'll never get sick of it. I don't think I will at this point. And then if you move over here, these are two of my truly salvaged PBR finds. These were a hot mess. I was able to restore them into two unique game table chairs for this vintage style Atari game table, which was, again, a pure treat for my husband. He loves it. I do not play anything, maybe occasionally Miss Pac-Man terribly, but he and his friends and any guests and kids we have come stay with us, this is like their favorite thing in the whole house. So it's really fun. One of the best features that we kind of created was this flow through doorway. So it goes straight from the main guest room to the outside, so that if you're outside, you can come through that door, you don't have to walk through. So it was kind of like, it's been a really great aspect of the design that we did. My favorite tie back though is the terrified children running off the beach from the movie Jaws, which ties to Steven Spielberg in the main room. The image had the perfect shades of ocean blue and like this vintage feel. When I saw it, I was like, this is both terrifying and hilarious. So it's one of my favorite things. The other thing that I would say about this space is that we kept it really simple with the shower, but the callback to the tile inside of the house, the kitchen, my friend handmade all of that gorgeous green emerald tile, which I hope one day will be in the inside of my pool as well. Fingers crossed. So that's that, and I love it in here. It's a little oasis. What does home mean to me is a really tough question. You know, my husband and I are in our home a lot now because of owning Palm Beach Regency, but we've never been homebodies. You know, I was always the person traveling and having a new experience. We don't have children, so we really took advantage of the last 15 years and have done a ton of that. So for me, I would say home is a place that inspires and reminds you of how good your life is. That's what I'd say. You know, when I look around our home, I see travels, experiences, photos of friends and family, things that are, again, one of a kind and unique to our space. And also, you know, home is about being obviously fully comfortable and relaxed. And overall, our home is definitely that. So I think that's what home means to me. So now for our grand finale, the outdoor loggia bar. I would say that this loggia bar that we had built off the guest house is the heart and soul of our home, because it's truly where we spend so much time with friends and family. So what in Palm Beach, what we call a loggia is a structure that's attached to the building that has open air sides. So this isn't an awning, this is actually a structure that's attached to the guest house. And if you look up, we finished the ceiling with Pecky wood cypress, which is sprinkled throughout the home from our front door to our living room. It is an original characteristic of homes from the 1920s and especially old Florida. So that was a really fun detail that we wanted to bring in, matching the dark color of the wood to what you see throughout the home. My husband and I were sort of convinced that we wanted a hotel lobby type bar, not like a traditional sit-up high bar. So we had a countertop bar hand poured with pebbles and shells from concrete. It has all the peckled top and character that we really hoped it would. And so this is really the mainstay of the bar. And then the front part of the bar, as you can see, we had the pecky cypress wood done all throughout the side of the bar as well, just to mimic the ceiling and to give it like a real grounded feel. The primary exciting piece, I just save up a lot of birthdays for this one, is the white gold pebble ice machine. I know. I grew up in Texas. I love ice, and pebble ice is like the best ice. So that was my big splurge, let's put it that way. And obviously we've got the sailfish and tons of vintage and meaningful art sprinkled throughout the wall here, from old Slamerin's art to DJ captaining a boat on our honeymoon. He's the captain. And we love rum, we love the Caribbean, so we always keep a good stock of our rum here. So this is when things get really wild. We bring out the wheeled and lighted karaoke machine. Sometimes you'll just find me out here singing badly when I've had a stressful day. It only takes like one glass of wine to get me fired up. Deej is the heart and center. This is my husband of the loggia. And so when guests come over, one of our favorite things to do, he makes rum punch. And so rum punch is super significant because when you travel to old hotels in the Caribbean, they welcome you with a rum punch. And so since we're trying to sort of create a hotel vacation vibe in our house like 24/7, the rum punch is key. And so cheers. Thank you for coming into our home and checking it out. And hopefully you can stop by and next time we'll give you a rum punch. Hey Homeworthy, I'm Kelly, and this is my home in West Palm Beach, Florida. Come in, I'd love to show you around.
Watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Kelly Sandbeck. I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida, and I am lucky enough to be mother to 2 young little girls, and I also work for myself as an interior designer. My home is a Spanish-style ranch home. It is situated on a freshwater lake here in West Palm. So we purchased this home in 2020, so it was right at the height of the pandemic. And we were looking for a larger home. We had a starter home. We had our young daughter with us. And we were looking for something new, but also old. I wanted something that had a little bit of history to it, but I also needed something on a quiet road, away from more of the city part of West Palm. So what I loved about this home was it was situated on the lake. It was quiet, it had a little bit of front yard, backyards, things for the kids, but it also had a little bit of history. The home was built in 1973, and when we first stepped foot in the house, what I loved about it is that it had the saltillo tile on the floor. So some people might know that better as terracotta. I find that to be a staple of homes in Florida, and one of the first things that I had in a home here in Florida that I loved. Welcome to the sitting room. So as I told you before, this is my favorite room in the house. So what I love about this room is that it is where I'm able to kind of showcase all of my little curiosities and my collection. So starting here with this table, I always love a large library table. However, I don't have the square footage to put one. So I found this table and I said I found it. It is a Facebook Marketplace find, which is my favorite place to source, if I can. I found this and I just wanted to put all of my shells on it, a super large vase to hold all of my palms, because I think the bigger the better, right? The higher the palm, the closer to God. So this room is kind of an awkward shape. So to find a appropriate sectional was actually very hard. This was a total unicorn find. This is a vintage Henry Link bamboo and wicker sectional, and it fits within the space perfectly. So I got really, really lucky with that find.
So I've used a lot of greens and seafoam blues in this room. I don't like anything super bright. I know we're based in the Palm Beach area, but I just don't do a lot of brights and pastels. So we do a lot of greens and blues in here. Here you're gonna find my collection of pillows. I've been told that I have too many pillows, and that's okay with me. I use these pillows to bring in color and pattern because I am not in the space right now to reupholster this vintage couch. So we're going to keep it as is, and we're gonna add the color in with all my pillows and my throw blankets. And above the sofa, we have a little bit of balance, a little bit of harmony. So I did source this nice big rattan mirror, and I needed something to anchor it on the side. So I'm not much of a DIYer, but this was a DIY project of mine. These are these little cubes that I found on Amazon that I wrapped in a vinyl grass cloth. And I found yet another place to put more of my stuff. So I've got some silver pineapple candle holders up there. And then over on this side, I once more sourced this from Facebook Marketplace. This was an amazing find. I don't know if it's a DIY, I think so, but it wasn't by me. So these are all real seashells on acrylic. And then I just have some baskets and some more wicker. We swapped out the light that was originally in this room with this chandelier here. This is a Capiz shell chandelier. And again, this is an older home, so we don't have soaring ceilings. I had to find something that was a statement, but that also my 6'3" husband wasn't going to bash his head into. So what I really like about this is its shape. It really does allow for you to clear it. I mean, I'm 5 feet, so that's not a feat for me, but it is the perfect statement light for this room. This is one of my absolute favorite pieces. So this is a antique tiger oak dresser, and I did find this once more on Facebook Marketplace. This was a $100 steal, and it is just my favorite. I love the movement of the wood here. It really does look like tiger stripes. And the person that I bought it from said it had been in their family for over 100 years. So I love that it has some history to it as well. And I just put a nice little lamp here. I'm obsessed with anything tortoiseshell. So when I saw this was a ceramic glaze lamp done in a tortoiseshell finish. Had to have it. Also a thrift find there. I've got a Crespi style rattan tray in the back for a little bit of texture. My bamboo candlesticks. And of course, gotta have some coral. This is a beautiful coral fan. And what I love about it, which is just for people that are fans of shells, it's got little barnacles and clamshells attached to it. So again, if you're a guest in my home, I'm gonna make you look at the barnacles. And this right here is my formal entry table. So this is a Chinese altar table. And I love that it's this dark, rich wood. And to contrast that, I have my polished silver pieces here on display as well. And above that, I have a stamp art mirror that was painted white when I found it. So I just kind of patched it up a little bit here and there and kept it as is. I like it because it kind of resembles a coral finish. And that's that. Styling entry tables or console tables like this can be really tricky. So what I like to always add to it is definitely a balance. So you want to have symmetry and you want the height to have a balance to it as well. Again, I like to put things out here that represent me, and I love a family photo. So I do have an older picture of myself in Cape Cod with my dad as a baby, and then over here I have a family portrait of my husband, my daughter, and I in Newport. So I'll take you now over to this wall on the other side of the archway. This can be tricky to style as well, because again, speaking about balance and harmony, we need something similar here. So I did add a little bit of a plate wall. Again, I'm not much for a ton of color, so I chose a brown and white assemble of plates. I also have this vintage tortoiseshell bamboo magazine rack that holds all of my architectural digests and a couple coffee table books. And I feel like it creates a nice harmony. So I would describe my personal style as being a fresh take on old Florida decor. So what that means is that I love to decorate with a lot of rattan, brass, bamboo. You're gonna find shells and coral, anything that really calls on the coastal locale of West Palm Beach. So my favorite room in the house is actually the one that I'm sitting in. This is my favorite room because it holds all of my little curiosities. It has all the things that I like to collect. I'm a huge collector. I love vintage. I love to thrift. So here is where I find that I can display it all. And it's the first room that you walk into when you enter my house, so I feel like it's right on display. I also love to sit here in the morning and drink my coffee. I have this wonderful fountain right outside my front door, and I get to bird watch, which is my favorite thing. So it would definitely be this room right here. Now, welcome to my dining nook / kitchen area. So this space is kind of a little bit more open concept. I don't have a formal dining room, so I made do with this space. So right here, we built a corner banquette. Again, with the awkward spaces, it's definitely an older Florida home. So we didn't have a lot of space for a regular table and chairs. So to save space, we built this. And above it, you'll find a photo ledge, and in the photo ledge I have pictures of my children. I have wedding photos from my wedding and also my grandparents' wedding and my husband's grandparents' wedding. So those were actually left over from our wedding. We had that on the welcome table, and so I repurposed them here in the kitchen. And because we all know that lighting is the jewelry of the room, I went for a big statement here. This light is actually made up of all coconut shells, which I thought was super fitting for the space. And so opposite the dining nook, I have a buffet table here. And on either side, I have extra chairs for when we have more people joining us. And here, once more, I just love to display my stuff. So I do keep my candlesticks here on the side. Again, if I have to bring them over and get a little bit formal, I can do that here. And in this tray, I have more of my shells and beautiful sea sponges, a ginger jar, and this adorable photo of my grandparents on their honeymoon in Miami. And here I have a hexagon tortoiseshell bamboo stand. So I'm using that to prop up my orchids. And on either side, I love wall brackets. So I use these wall brackets to show some more height here with the coral fans. And then here I have a antique printer's tray that again, my big DIY. I glued these in here. That was my big win. But I just love to display them like that. And I love a printer's tray. And here on this wall, I have two posters that I had framed. And these are really cool, actually. These are from the 1980s. They are old anti-alcohol propaganda posters from the Soviet Union. So I am sober, and so is my husband. So this is just kind of a little nod to our sobriety and kind of a good little reminder. And I just think it's fun. I like quirky, fun little things, and the colors were super fun. So I had those framed in a bamboo frame. As you can see, I have set the table for you guys today. I will say though, I am not a tablescape expert. It's not my strong suit. However, can't deny that it looks really nice, especially when you have company over. So it can be super simple. I did use the plates that I just have in my cabinet, and we got these nice rattan chargers, bamboo flatware, and I did source these napkins secondhand. They are so gorgeous, and I wrapped them in a little bamboo ring, and voila, it's so simple. So when I first started to decorate my home, that is what I started to collect. So pretty much anything that is woven, wicker, rattan, it catches my attention, and I go for it. So I have a hard time not picking it up if I see it at the antique mall, thrift store. So you'll find a lot of rattan pieces, and then of course you're gonna find a lot of shells. So some of them are found on the beach, of course, and others I find and hunt in other places. So I do love corals and all different types of shells. And I just think that if you're gonna decorate with shells, you should put them everywhere, you know, not just one. That's not gonna cut it. So you'll find that I kind of overdo it with my shells. I also love to decorate with brass, and vintage silver. So right off of our dining area is our kitchen. So in this kitchen, we did a mild renovation. We did what I like to call a facelift. So we kept all of the original cabinets and we repainted them, added new countertops and a new backsplash. So here you'll see I went extra thick with the countertops. It's just something luxury about it. I like it. So I went super thick. Some people do it just on the island. I did it everywhere. I'm kind of a maximalist in that sense. And then here as the backsplash, I used a cement tile from Villa Lagoon. And I just love it. It just felt tropical. For me, it kind of called on the Bahamas. So I like that feeling in here. I want it to feel a little bit more relaxed, you know, not as formal. So we have that here. So on this island, originally it was a split level. That was a big thing to me, to cut it all to one length. I like to actually see the people that I'm sitting here and conversing with. This is a huge hub for us as a family of 4. This is where our, you know, our grandparents meet us, our parents, kids, everywhere. So I like to be able to just sit across and chat. So originally we did have the microwave situated over the range. I did want to relocate that. So what we did was we pulled that out. We kind of adjusted the cabinetry a little bit. We added this Pecky cypress trim, which I totally love. And we moved the microwave into the island. I kind of tucked it away on, I say, my side over here, so that it's really not in the view of my guests. And I have explained to you that I am a mother of 2 young girls, so I get a lot of school artwork home, right? But you're noticing that this is pretty clean. It's not just for you. I actually found a great way of putting it elsewhere besides the fridge. So I put this little bulletin board in the kitchen, and that is where I display my kids' artwork. They love it. They love knowing that there's a spot for their work, and it just doesn't happen to be unsightly and on the fridge. Works for me. So going with a more informal space, as I mentioned previously, I wanted to go with rattan pendant lights over the counter, and I went with 2 and made them larger as opposed to smaller and doing 3. Again, I like a statement light, and I felt like this balanced the space perfectly. So in doing the mini renovation or the facelift, I did swap out the hardware, which makes a huge impact. And I went with an unlacquered brass. So what that means is it's a living finish. So as it ages and as it lives here, as we touch it, it'll start to patina. So some of them are a little bit more polished. Some of them have some age, some signs of wear. And I actually like that. You know, I like these living finishes. I like things that make my home feel storied. So I went with this for the hardware. And now I'd love to take you into the home office. So for as passionate as I am about old Florida style, I am actually not from Florida. I'm originally from Massachusetts. I made my way to Florida after a stint in New York. I went out there for a job. And I knew that when I left Massachusetts, I was looking for a fresh start. However, New York just wasn't giving it to me. But the second I got here to Florida, I just knew it. You know, I felt like I totally blossomed, and I started to really find myself here. So I attribute a lot of my regrowth to being here in Florida. So I do have an affinity for the state. And what really brought about this interest in old Florida was this feeling of going into some homes or places and feeling like everything was so gray, you know, from the tile to the wall. And I thought, this doesn't represent Florida. To me, it doesn't feel like Florida. Florida to me is sunny, happy, all of those things. So I started to kind of dive a little deeper into the history of Palm Beach and the surrounding towns. And I really just picked up an interest in it. And back then, so this was what, 2019? Thrifting was amazing back then. Pre-pandemic, it was amazing. So back then, you know, what was filled with in the thrift stores was a lot of rattan, a lot of brass, a lot of chinoiserie and things like that. And I just started to fill my home with it, but not just fill my home with it. I wanted to know the history behind it. Like, why am I seeing all these pieces here that maybe I didn't see in Massachusetts and New York? And so I really got interested in the history of Florida. So this is the home office. So this is my personal office here. This is where I work from. So I am a full-time mom, so that means I'm centered out of the home, but I do work for myself in interior design. So in this room, I had a little fun with the paint. We painted the trim all around, also the baseboards, the casings of the door, everything, this beautiful green. And then I went and wallpapered the wall with a smaller iCat print. And here I have a faux bamboo desk. This was also purchased secondhand. This was a great find. And over here I have a shelf, again, another bamboo shelf that I put all of my collections on. And then of course the more unsightly printer is on the bottom. Here behind me, you'll see that I have this curtain here. So what's actually behind here is another series of shelves. So I do like to keep some of my tile samples, my wallpaper samples here. But I also use this to tuck away my kitty litter box. It's unsightly, but you know what? That's what we have here. It's what we're working with. So for me, it works because my cats can access it, and then I can also close it away and no one is any the wiser. And the rug that I've used in this room has this gorgeous shell motif on the edge. And I know I'm kind of overdoing it with the shells, but to me, that's kind of campy and I love it. So we have this nice trim. I feel like it balances out the cream of the wallpaper, and I love it. So something I should note is that I started my journey into interior design from this house. So it was after we moved in and we started doing all of these renovations, I really became passionate about how I wanted these spaces to look and feel. And so it was from there, in sharing on my Instagram and getting feedback from my followers about all of these projects that we were doing, that someone kind of tapped on me and was like, hey, you should really do this. You have a great eye. So it was from there that, after I was done all of my projects, I was like, hungry for more. I didn't want to stop here. So that was how my career in interior design was born. This is the very tiny bathroom off of the office. And what's really cool about this, and that I love to talk about, is that we once more did this mini facelift. So we did a no demo reno, is what I like to call it. We kept the existing tile, the existing sink, toilet, plumbing fixtures, and I just went with a super fun wallpaper. I also painted the ceiling this deep rich black, added a fun light. And of course, I love old Hollywood, and this is actually not Marilyn Monroe, often gets mistaken for it. This is Jane Mansfield. So if you know, you know. And yeah, I just love that we were able to do this without being wasteful and gutting the entire space. Sometimes it doesn't really need that. And now I'd love to take you to the other side of the house, to the primary bedroom. Welcome to the primary bedroom. So this is my bedroom, and as you can see, it does lead outside. So that was a huge win for me when looking for this house. I loved all of the bright light that came from there. I also love the access right to the patio and the pool. We are also on a lake, so I was super inspired to bring in blues into this space. So I did do an accent wall, which is kind of controversial in the interior design world. Some people like it, some people hate it. I like it with a big bold print. It kind of feels more like a mural to me. So I just have it on the wall that my bed sits on, and it's just enough. I would not like it if it were all over the room, so works for us. And then over here, tucked in the corner, we have a little desk that I use as a makeup vanity. So I have this gorgeous bamboo mirror over it, and I like to kind of style everything on a tray. That way I'm able to move it. If I do need to step into the bathroom, it's easier lighting in there. So I like to put everything on a tray. Kind of keeps it all organized as well. Again, for balance and symmetry, on the opposite side of the lamp, I have a tortoiseshell hurricane. I love to have candles on throughout the house. So scented, non-scented, doesn't matter. So I have that there. So to tie in the blue from the wallpaper, I did go with accompanying fabric on the pillows here. So this is also a Tebow fabric, and it is of the same color that the wallpaper is. I go ahead and throw a nice blue quilt over it just to add some balance. And I have these rattan nightstands. And then here at the end of the bed, I did style this bench. Now, styling a bench at the end of the bed can be a little tricky. I like to go with just a small, simple throw, maybe a stack of books, something decorative on the top. And what I love about this even more is that it actually opens. So I'm able to kind of store some unsightly stuff there, boxes, shoes, things like that. Anything with hidden storage is a big friend of mine. So that's what I love for at the end of the bed. And now I want to bring you into the primary bath, which is right off of the bedroom. So as far as primary baths are concerned, this is a rather small one. So we wanted to really pack a punch with the wallpaper. I'm a big fan of big punchy prints and palms, of course. So we went with a tiled chair rail, wallpaper the rest. This here I have in place because I don't have a lot of storage. Again, this is a really small bathroom. So I sourced this little antique tortoiseshell bamboo shelf, etagere? I'm not sure, whichever works. And this is where I put all of my towels, extra toilet paper, things like that. And then here we have a walk-in shower with just a small glass partition. I did this kind of lagoon colored tile all the way to the ceiling with brass finishes. And now I want to take you to my daughter's bedroom. Follow me. Welcome to my daughter Jolene's room. My daughter is 6 years old, so as you can imagine, she is obsessed with the color pink. So we decided to totally color drench this room. So that means I painted the ceiling, the walls, the trim, and the door, all this muted bubblegum pink. I was inspired by Palm Beach for this room. I kind of wanted it to have a nod to the colony. So we went with this round rug on the ground. It's this watercolor trellis print. And then I did a nice daybed in a green velvet. And I have some white accents throughout. I have a white wicker mirror above her dresser. She has a white lacquer dresser and a faux bamboo. My daughter is completely obsessed with unicorns, so I knew that I had to sprinkle some unicorns in her room, but I had to do it tastefully. So I actually sourced this off eBay, and it was a unicorn find, quite literally. I could not find anything like it. This brass unicorn mounted onto wood, I had it nice and polished, and then we added a pink fabric lampshade to kind of girl it up a little bit. And I just love it on the top here, next to the wicker heart mirror. I just love her room. It was really my space to get creative and tap into, you know, my feminine side. So this was a really fun room to decorate. So right off of my daughter's bedroom is the guest bathroom. So it is primarily used by both of my kids. So we went with something kind of bright and fun in here. However, it has to stand up against the abuse from a 6 and 3-year-old. So I went with a simple ceramic subway tile. I did a chair rail to protect the wallpaper from splashes and everything else that comes along with kids. We did a deep soaking tub here. They love to basically swim in this tub. Super fun for them. And then I just brought the tile all the way to the top, again, to prevent splashes and keep it easy to clean. That is the name of the game for me. So the wallpaper in here is really, really bright and bold. I wanted it to be a bit of a nod to Palm Beach, so I went with this large banana print and in a splashy blue. Here on the mirror, I did something with this kind of natural white texture. It reminded me of coral, so it worked. All of the fixtures in here are brass, so I did the same finish here for the sink that I did here on the flusher as well. It's all about matching in here. So what home means to me is someplace that you can always come back to, that you feel safe and comfortable in. And being that I am a mother of 2 young girls, it also needs to be not so precious. It should be able to get a little marked up, a little stained here and there, and that's just the reality of things. So home to me is comfort, it's safety, but it's also a place to just relax. You know, I never want my children, my spouse, my friends, anyone to feel uptight in my space. It should be relaxing.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hi, Homeworthy. It's Malie. Sorry, I had to kick the door. It's got all jammed with the humidity. This is my Palm Beach house, and I'd love you to come in and take a look around. I'm Malie Scott. We are in Palm Beach, Florida, the wonderful bubble that every 60-something couple has ended up in recently. I don't like it. I adore it. It's just the strangest thing. I lived in Boston for many years and moved down here pre-COVID, and I just fell in love with this place. I don't know whether it's the warm sunshine or the greenery or the friendly people, the bike path, the beach walks. I mean, it's an ideal life for me. Oh, and the restaurants. Love the restaurants. I'm an interior designer. I have a small amount of good clients that I work with in the Cape and Boston, and a few projects down here. But my career has really veered off into being a fabric and wallpaper designer. And actually, just being a designer, I love inventing new things. And as my own fabric and wallpaper designs progressed, people started noticing me, and I've also designed other things. I did a little furniture line for these young friends of mine, Dal, which was so incredible and so difficult. Designing furniture is so difficult. And ended up going to the Philippines and going to their factory. What I absolutely love is all the new adventures that come my way. Well, what happened was my poor hubby was just so bored of me complaining and being so gloomy about cold Boston winters that we came down and had a look for just a small house for holidays and weekends, and it was going to be my treat. This house is my treat. And I had made this list of everything that I thought would be just perfect, easy living, casual. I wanted to put all my South African things in it. I wanted to be able to have overnight guests, but keep everything very informal. And we walked into this house first. And unfortunately, I'm a Capricorn and my hubby is a Libran. So we walked in and it was just, staged pretty horribly. But it was everything that I wanted. And I was like, this is the one, I'll take it. And my hubby made me drag through 16 other houses, big ones, small ones, bits of land, and I knew we'd end up here. And basically, there was nothing that I really hated. I mean, I don't love all the tiles in the bathrooms, but, as an interior designer, I think you realize there are bigger fish to fry. I mean, people get so stuck on small things. So I painted because I just love Faro and Ball paint. And so I just painted the whole house in nice non-builder's paint, changed the light fittings, and that was it. I mean, just moved in and put my footprint on it. This is the little entrance hall to my lovely bungalow house. The reason I bought the house and decided on the house, I just love the clean white tiles. I knew that I wanted a bench in here, and I found this cheap and cheerful one and put this amazing fabric on it, which has since been discontinued, and of course everyone asks me where it comes from. I love Vaughan. They are my favorite lights. And this little hall table I saw in London at Chelsea Harbour and had to have it. These are from whenever I do a launch or do a show house, I always keep the things that I buy because they're just little memories. This was from a little launch that I did for furniture. I love Yaya Kusama and always have, so I had to have some of her things. All the African baskets in this house have been bought in the tourist stores, which I spend my life in. Behind you are these incredible ceramic plates that I found this ceramicist that has this little shelf in this tourist store. He's so untrained, but I mean, they're just absolutely brilliant. And they're like, $25 each, but I love them. This is Cherish, my friend Anna Brockway. That's my Christmas present from Anna Brockway, because who doesn't love green vase? And so this is my vibe that I was trying to put together. A little bit of vintage, a little bit of modern, and a little bit of Africa, which is what I am. Going through to the living room area. I like this setup because it's good for parties, because people can circulate and you can just put nibbles out on the table. I like to do really casual entertaining. Up here is my ode to Palm Beach, and I'd love to squeeze some more parrots in, but my husband's like, enough with the parrots already. I didn't want paintings on either side of the fireplace, so I found these incredible old Hollywood, whatever they are. They look like water lily things. The vintage chairs, well, antique chairs, are from Cherish, my friend Anna again. I love supporting my girlfriends and their enterprises. And these amazing embroidered things are actually beer can tops that I bought in Cape Town, and they were the first thing I bought for this house. And you know, it's interesting, I just heard Ken Folk speak, and he said he sees a movie in his brain of how things are going to be, and it's very irritating for the people around you, because I knew exactly what this house was going to look like, and I knew that when you walked in the door, those were going to be there on that wall. It's my only superpower I have, basically. I love this brunch wick. I love old textile styles. These are actually pillows that I designed. This is my interpretation of an ECAT. Thrown over the back of the sofa is a new kente cloth that I just picked up in South Africa. Now this, I know not everyone would do, with red and orange and yellow, but it looks perfect to my eye. Sorry. That one I had from a show house. This one I had made. This is from Lee Jofa. That fabric I designed for Stout. And you know, I don't know why, but I like that one layer of color and pattern to just pull the whole room inside of itself with this quiet surround. It's my favorite kind of decorating. I must apologize, I haven't cleaned up this end of my table, even though I knew you guys were coming, because I'm mid-process of recoloring a new collection for Stout, and also I designed some things in South Africa. This is from a little pashmina that I bought at a pop-up, but this is what I'm so excited about. This kente cloth that I painted in South Africa is going to be one of my new wovens. I just need this mess around me just here so that I can sit down and choose an hour and just get into it. Again, I can't put my stuff away. Obsessed with shells, yes. Some I've picked up, some my friends give me that they've picked up, but it's just so hard when you walk past a beautiful shell on the beach. I can't not pick it up. These are wine coasters, housewarming presents, antiques from a friend. This I inherited from my mum, this little fat lady. This is, what's her name again? Do you remember? She's very famous Connecticut potter. Plants, and these were my, these hydrangeas were in my Valentine's flowers, and I can't throw them away. So, I mean, maybe they a little bit sort of meh, but I love them. So over in this crazy corner, I have been collecting antique textiles for a long time. In London, they have this amazing antiques fair in Battersea, and this one deal, I just absolutely love the colors in this ECAT, and so turned it into a picture. And these little palm trees are made in Cape Town by some African beaders. A friend of mine started this collaborative for them. I think it's called Boys on the Side of the Road. Anyway, I just think they're so sweet. And then, you know, supporting Amanda Lindroth, supporting Dunes and Duchess. Actually, this is a friend gave that to me, that Stacey Kunstler, who makes these beautiful candlesticks. So everything in my house, even though it looks so cluttered, is very meaningful. It's all meaningful to me. Going through to the kitchen, it's an obvious new build, plain white kitchen. Not that spectacular, but I mean, I probably would have put a white kitchen in anyway, and the countertops are quite nice. I absolutely hated the backsplash, but it's amazing how you just get used to things, and also I couldn't be bothered with all that mess. So, you know, I've made peace with it. And it's very functional, and we eat a lot at this counter. And then round this way is, it's easy to get outside for having breakfast on that little round table. These sofas were the only thing that I kept from the staging, the real estate staging. They were just exactly the right size. They're actually just junk, but you know what, it's fine. I recovered them and just filled them with pillows that I love. This is my fabric, actually one of my most popular fabrics, Flora. And then I love buying these African fabrics. You can buy them in Chelsea Market. What's it called? Chelsea Flea. My daughter and I go shopping there, and there's this East African guy, and I'm always, look at me, I'm always buying textiles from him, and he's just so sweet, and they make great pillows. So I just wanted to keep this side of the house easy breezy. I love these from Make Goods, and then always with my little vintage pieces. I don't know if you have ever been to the Elephant's Foot, but it is this antique shop, old-fashioned antique shop on South Dixie, where they have a whole bunch of brown furniture. I just love it, and I found that footbath in there. I love the ceilings. I like the fact that it is a blank canvas. It doesn't really say anything if you take all of my stuff out of it. It's just got this very easy breezy, casual atmosphere. What do you think? And it's bright. And it's not stodgy at all. I mean, because Palm Beach can be very formal, and I think people see the clipped hedges and everything, and they think that life in Palm Beach is pretty formal and the entertaining is formal, but I just love that this house hasn't got that atmosphere, that you can just, when I have parties, people are just all over the place, and you know, just put all the wine out on the patio outside. I like that just relaxed living. Let's just have a little look outside here. One of the reasons I just love this house was this deep loggia. And you can fit a lot of furniture in it. We have breakfast out here, and really, when it's hot and stuffy, we just put on the fans. And not all of these are indoor-outdoor pillows. These are Fanny Shorter. I absolutely love her fabrics, and they're faded, and I don't mind. that they faded. But anyway, this is just a good place to sit in the morning, read the paper, and I'm sorry it's a bit of a gloomy day today, but normally the pool is just a little sparkling pool in the middle of our garden. Now I'm going to show you the grown-up part of the house down here where we live, but just a quick stop at, I always say that this is exactly what the inside of my brain looks like. All my little collections that I've picked up in the antique stores and in South Africa over the years. I was just in Paris last week at the Deco Off show, and I bought this I'm obsessed with jugs for putting flowers in, and I bought that in the Marché aux Puces on, it was the coldest I've ever been in my entire life. I also picked up this little cafe au lait, which are, you can't find them very easily. You know that the French used to have their coffee like that in the mornings in the old days. I don't know if they still do it. Africa, more jugs. I went through a stage of loving art glass. I'm sort of over it now. And, oh, I picked up, this is going to the framers. Isn't that the most beautiful little oil painting that I bought in this dusty little shop in Paris? So that's how I operate. If I see it and I love it, I go away, and then I go all the way around and then end up buying it. So come down here. South Africa, a sweet artist that I like, and then, oh, his and her bathrooms, the secret to a happy marriage. Plus, look at the one I get. It's ginormous. And literally, the only thing I had to do was change the light fittings. I did those little Aran ones in here. I think they look quite jolly. And unfortunately, you can see absolutely everything in that light. So this is our bedroom, which is very peaceful and calm. And actually, my husband was my client in here, and I know that he doesn't like a very busy bedroom. So, and these are his favorite colors, blue and yellow. So that was my little compromise for him, to have this nice, quiet, but I could still add some fun little touches. I love this bench made by my friend Stacy, Dunes and Duchess bench. Vaughan lamps, copied by everyone, but the Vaughan one is absolutely the nicest. And then behind you, Alex Mason, who is a friend of mine and a fabric designer. I bought those at one of her pop-up little things at in LA, and she actually prints my wallpaper. So I have all these lovely women enterprise network connections that I just love that about our community in our industry. These are from South Africa. You used to be able to pick up these sea urchins when I was young. They were just scattered all over the beach. I bought those in a shop in South Africa, and they're very brittle. I don't know how long they're going to last, but they just remind me of my childhood. I didn't actually pick up every single one of those, I have to admit. I think one of the most influential things for me was being born in South Africa and losing my dad when I was very young. My mum was very young. So I was in a very matriarchal household where we had to make do a lot. My mum was 32 years old when my dad died. So we were all team us. And so that has made me very fearless in life, because when you've had that happen to you, I mean, somebody's sofa coming in the wrong color is not a drama. So being in South Africa, having this pull together thing, that's the most valuable asset for me, because nothing really derails me. And people think it's my energy or whatever, but it's just the gift of living in a family like that, in the sunshine. I can make curtains, I can cook, I have been given this gift by the start in my life, to tell you the truth. Now we're going into this little bedroom that I turned into my office. Because it's my space, I have felt that I could go absolutely crazy with my fabric and wallpaper. I don't think a normal person would put my blue Brimfield wallpaper with these curtains. This pattern is called Emmy, and I designed it and named it after my mum. And when I showed her the strike off, she said, "Oh, well, actually, that's the nicest fabric that you've designed." So, she put that out there straight away. Anyway, this is where I work, and I do my email, but also it's my escape hatch. And I love to have a day bed in my office. So I can close this door and grab my little mohair rug, plug in a book, and no one is allowed to come beyond that door. I like to have a nice little nap in the afternoon, especially if I've had a busy week. And also when the house is full, it's an extra bed for overflow guests. The dog absolutely loves her little doggy bed. When I designed my first collection for stout fabrics, they wanted me to buy some vintage pieces to cover. And I was on South Dixie and I saw this dog bed, went straight in my car. And I don't know how she knows, but she knows that it's hers. And when I come in here, she is there having a little rest as well, her daybed. I used to think needlepoint was cheesy, but it's so interesting how everything old is new again. And I'm very influenced by my daughters, especially my New York daughter, who is just the ultimate grand millennial. And she started loving needlepoint. And actually, I had done some needlepoint when I was pregnant with my kids, and I was going to chuck these pillows out, and she grabbed them. They're in her apartment in New York. So my friend who has a little online store let me choose, and that was my first favorite thing. And no one likes a shady beach. It was very appropriate for Palm Beach. Pamela Hofmeister is an Instagram friend that has turned out to be such an amazing painter. She's so famous now. We made friends on Instagram years and years ago, and I love her interiors. I have a few of them in my house. More African fabrics from the guy at Chelsea Flea. And what else? I bought that painting in South Africa when I was coming back the other day, and I'm just haven't got round to going to the framers. So this is my daughter's room, the pink guest room. And I just absolutely love the headboard and this incredible fabric. I give this to my daughter because they're the naughty ones that smoke, the ones from London, So this is the smoking room. You can go out the side there. And the Peter Dunham headboard is just very, very jolly and fun. Some of my fabrics are scattered around, but I don't do too much of that. I love everyone's fabric, so it's fine. I just layer it all in. This little painting I bought in Wellfleet, and when I'm in Cape Cod, my favorite thing to do is get in my car with my daughter, and we just drive all over the place. And Wellfleet has got the most amazing little art galleries all along the main street. And you know what it's like when you're just walking along the road and you look through the window and you see a painting, and actually the guy was there painting another painting, so we chatted. That late afternoon light that just made that house glow, it touched me. So most of the things in my house have meaning. I don't like just buying things because they're the right color or the right size for a space. I think it's very important that you make it meaningful and right. And I think people can sense it when they're in your space. Home means that actually home can be anywhere. It's very interesting. When I go to South Africa and I go into my house in Plettenberg Bay, which I had not been in for 3 years, and I was very hesitant to go back, to tell you the honest truth, because my mum had died and I just didn't know if I needed that in my life, because I'm so happy in Palm Beach and I just didn't know whether I should open that channel again and reconfuse myself. But anyway, my hubby said, just keep an open mind and let's just go out for the holidays. And I walked into my house in Plet, and I was so relieved because nobody had moved my stuff around. And even though people had stayed there and we'd lent it to friends, where this basket is on that book is home to me. It's just this atmosphere that I like to create around myself, this nest. And it's probably from, having to figure life out for myself from the age of 11. So that is just precious to me, to just be in this atmosphere of what I have made and created for myself.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Jonathan Adler.
And I'm Simon Doonan.
Welcome to our home.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
That is Simon Doonan, and he is a legend. He was the creative director and legendary window dresser of Barney's. Now he's just published his 10th book. He's a brilliant writer and cultural commentator and infuriatingly cute and productive, and he's my husband of 30 years.
That is Jonathan Adler. Yes, Jonathan Adler, ceramics, textiles, carpets, furniture, amazing, glamorous, over-the-top gorgeousness for 30 years. That's how long we've been together.
And I'm a homemaker.
You are?
So we are in our house on the north end of Palm Beach. It was built in 1940, and it was done by a very famous Palm Beach architect called Maurice Fazio.
It's sort of like a regal little dollhouse, and by Palm Beach standards, it's a dollhouse.
It was during the pandy, and we had come down here and we were staying with a friend, and we thought we need to buy a place in Palm Beach. And we'd walked by this house, and when we were just kind of walking up and down streets, and we're like, that is a dream house. Wouldn't it be amazing if someday we lived in a house like that? And then I was at home in New York, kind of perusing real estate listings, and I saw that this house was for sale. We weren't there. I asked my best friend Liz to go look at it, and she's like, it's magical. And we placed an offer and had an accepted deal at 5 o'clock that day. So it's a house we'd never been in. We had merely seen it from outside and thought that is the cutest, best house in Palm Beach. And by 5 o'clock one day, it was ours. It's really quite odd. How would you describe the style?
I guess it's
It's almost like the White House. Like it has like a
Yeah.
little, it's like a teeny tiny.
it's a dinky version of the White House, which is good because we're dinky.
Yeah.
We're both, and so's Foxy. So yeah,
There's something theatrical about it.
it's something slightly camp, that's why I always think of a dollhouse. But a dollhouse that's like meant to look a bit grand with the columns out the front and everything. But as I say, by Palm Beach standards, it's actually quite modest, which
but there
is
is
hilarious.
Yeah, but I think there is something very camp about it because it has this sort of sense of exaggeration, which is really fun. And so it almost feels like a folly, I think, it's kind of a fun way to think about it. And I think we sort of think of it as a folly.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous little white folly, and I think you sort of recontextualized it. So instead of trying to make it everything very 40s, you plonked it into sort of the 60s, the 70s, like there's definitely a mid-century vibration, especially the outside.
Interior design is a funny thing. I always think that an interior should almost be like a slimming mirror. It should reflect the occupants as they are, but at their most glamorous. I hope the house is in some way a portrait of us, good, bad, or other. I think probably like us. Not everyone will love it, but some people will. And I think it's really authentic to who we are. I think you have sort of a sense of color, and you sort of came of age during the glam rock era, and I make a ton
Swinging
of
60s.
swinging 60s. I make a ton of stuff, and I needed a place where I could bring all the stuff I make into our worlds, and it would kind of make sense. And
I think many people, when they decorate a house, they're thinking about what the neighbors will think, what their best friends will think, what the blah, blah, blah. We don't think about what anybody will think. We just think about what we'll think.
we really wanted a place that just kind of felt really, it might not look it on camera. I don't know how it looks on camera, but it feels quite
Very
kinda
comfortable.
cash and
Cash.
comfy, and we can have a dinner party for 12 and people can kind of sit in little clusters, and it just feels like kind of loose and casual, and that was important. And we're back and forth to the beach like all day long, so it has an indoor-outdoor vibe.
Sarongs, huge hats, glasses, and that's just Foxy.
Yeah, glasses. Yep. Oh, Foxy. And we are dogs on every surface.
I do
people,
think
obviously.
the older you get, the larger your sunglasses should get.
I
It's
think
like-
even bigger.
Yeah. So by the time you die, they're just like huge windshields on top of your head. Johnny and I were introduced on a blind date 30 years ago. Yep.
Yeah, actually, it'll be the anniversary of our meeting is this Friday. It'll be 30 years this Friday.
Eek.
Yikes. But they've been 30 incredible years. Like, we have built a life and a world together, and there have been many, many chapters, and this is Palm Beach is kind of our latest and maybe greatest chapter. We got set up on a blind date, and at the time I was like a struggling potter, and I was selling my pots at Barney's, but I was like broke and just working 24/7, making mugs all day. And Simon was sort of a legend, so he was a very, very famous celebutante. And I was like, he was a little older. I thought he would be sort of an effete, snobby British fashion person. And at the time, I appeared to be kind of gritty and bohemian. not so true, but we seemed quite different. But my friend was like, no, I think you'll get along. So I sort of went to the blind date, and there he was.
Yes, and I remember the blind date very well. I was in a suit, actually pinstripe suit, I think Romeo Gigli, if I remember correctly, and Johnny rollerbladed into the restaurant. He was
the 90s.
rollerblading all over town with an Invicta backpack and a Lacoste shirt, and Jean spattered in clay, everything, face, hands, clothes. So, but I was very charmed, and he was very interesting and lively and impressive. Somebody actually making or beginning to make a living from doing pottery.
And the funny thing is, I think when I met Simon, I thought he was this very like buttoned up executive who was incredibly bourgeois and proper. And I think he probably thought that I was extremely bohemian because I was a clay spattered potter. And then cut to, it is a total bait and switch. Simon, I think, has the most bohemian spirit of anyone I've ever met in my life. And I am embarrassingly conventional in many ways. So it was a bait and switch, and I guess that's how many people are. But we've kind of rolled with it and maybe met in the middle-ish.
I think so.
Welcome to the living room. One of my favorite things is that the first thing you see when you walk in is this incredible painting by Jeff McFetteridge. And it's a very haunting painting because the woman in the painting is lifting her skirt and you'll never know what's behind it. So I think it's sort of a very like meta, trippy image, and it sort of sets the tone. In this room and in the house in general, you'll see that the walls all have kind of just a very pale color, some pale, some not so pale, but it kind of creates this like glowy vibe. We painted all the floors white. The whole thing gives kind of like a mod, somewhat trippy and surreal feel. And then it's just kind of full of some of my favorite things. This is this great vintage Odumene split reed cabinet, and I retrofitted it with painted glass bits on the doors and a painted glass top, so it really captures the vibe. Colorful but coastal at the same time. These are these great vintage glass heads that I've always had and loved. Simon's always had and loved. These lamps are by moi. I do a lot of figural stuff in my work as a potter, and when I first started, I used to do a lot of very geometric pieces. And as I sort of moved into figural things, I kind of took the idea of taking body parts and just repeating them as geometry, and you'll see that a lot in my stuff. So in the corner, first of all, I think pedestals are every decorator's secret weapon. Never forget the power of a pedestal. This is one of my stainless steel pedestals with one of my vases, and instead of flowers, why not try ostrich feathers? Trippy and surreal. A fab painting that I love. And then in this room, it's mostly my furniture, c'est moi. This is this really groovy screen that I found at the Paris flea market. And it's kind of it just captures the colors of this room. And it's forever. These are my two chairs called Malie chairs, and I kind of just flipped the upholstery, which I think is always a great trick. So in this, it's black with a white seat, and that one's white with a black seat. The fireplace doesn't work, so I put my giant brass amoeba sculpture in the fireplace. More me. This is this fantastic mirror that a friend of Simon's made. We've had it for 30 years. And what I love about it is that it takes the idea of a traditional starburst mirror and kind of flips it on its head. And these pieces are just simple 2x4s. So it's kind of a high-low moment, and I never say no to a high-low moment. And then this is this nifty thing. Our friend Ruben Toledo wrote a very lovely note to us, and he always illustrates things, and so we just hung it up on the fireplace. Super cute. Oh, the jars are by yours truly. They have kind of a weird origin story and inspiration. I kind of wanted to take the idea of Delft ceramics, which is the Dutch blue painted ceramics that were always very traditional, and kind of twist it on its head. And so I did these sort of surreal dreamscapes in tones of blue that are kind of an homage to the idea of surrealism, really, and yeah, and psychedelics. One of my absolute favorite things on earth is this eye lamp by the French 60s and 70s surrealist kind of conceptual artist called Nicolas L. I absolutely love it. I think it might be my favorite thing in the entire house. And then you'll see a lot of suns in the house. This little nifty sun lamp is a piece that I made. It's from my pottery studio. So I did some custom individual pieces in the house, whereas mostly I kind of just make prototypes, but this is from my studio. And then I love this acrylic shark that I made. I feel so weird just saying how much I love everything I made, but I do. And he's really great because he sits right in front of a window and is illuminated. And I think the shark lives exactly where that shark should live. It kind of catches the light. It's giving me Palm Beach vibes, and I'm really proud of that. You'll see a lot of beaded art and pillows and stuff around, so that's everywhere. Monsieur Dog wearing his hats, where, you know, sun protection is everything in Floride. And then more suns from my studio. We'll go upstairs later, but now let me take you into our dining room cum library. This room is, I guess, technically the dining room, and if we're eating inside, we do pull up chairs here, but we kind of treated it as like a library pass-through space. I sit on my Trippy cloud sofa with hand-beaded mushroom pillows, obs, and read here a lot. It's kind of dreamy and floaty. I found these fantastic bamboo palm trees in Paris. And I think my favorite thing in this room is, I said to Simon, oh, you know what we should do just for a laugh? We should have portraits of ourselves done, because why not? And he said, well, why don't you do them in beaded art? And so they are, one portrait, tchotchkes, is a portrait of me, because I make tchotchkes for a living. And the other portrait says schmatas, because Simon came up in the rag trade, and they are both Yiddish words. And I think, you know, I like the idea of kind of playing with, like, again, high-low, like the idea of having portraits of yourself is very pompous, obs, but then, you know, kind of taking the piss by Yiddish words explaining what we do. I just think they look really cool and they capture exactly who we are. If you follow moi, you'll come into like where it all happens, the TV room. So this is like this sunroom. It's where we watch television. I think one of the things that's cool about this house in general, we didn't want to have like heavy curtains because it's meant to feel light and beachy. So we did leveler blinds everywhere. So you'll see them here in this sunroom and wherever we need coverage. But this room is just super chill, cash. This room, as you can see, is Tiffany blue. And it's a bold color choice. It doesn't feel jarring to me at all, but the rooms down here, it goes from kind of a mint Prada green to like a slightly bluer green and then a much bluer blue. So as you kind of go through the sequence of rooms, there is a logic behind the color choice. But this room, I think, is just really strong, sharp color. And that is determined by Florida. Honestly, there's something about Florida that's like, nothing can be bold and colorful enough. It's just, it's the light, it's the vibe. Like, I just want more. And then I think what's so nice about this room is that the architecture and the materials are beautiful. We have like a Pecky cypress ceiling that is fantastic. And the Tiffany blue paint just works perfectly. And then, you know, kind of every bit and corner is filled with things that I either made and or love. The purple chairs, I think, are really extraordinary. They're my Riviera chairs, super comfy. And then I had these purple linen covers hand beaded in India there's this guy I work with, an artisan in India, who like literally sees the world in beads. I don't know how else to explain it other than that. He is a brilliant artisan, and he just kind of, you'll see all these beaded things, and he takes my designs and takes them to 11 with his artistry and majesties. These are my Riviera lamps, and Simon said, you know what, the shades look a bit dull, so he just took them outside and splattered the shades to crank them up to 11. The television's everything. This is like a little thrift store thingy I found. It's like a styrofoam $1 thing painted silver. This is this groovy table Simon has had forever, a hand-thrown lamp that I designed from I work with a pottery studio in Peru where artisans hand throw things. So this is this massive lamp, hand-thrown in groggy black stoneware, painted with white polka dots, and it's really great. And these are my brand new brass flowers. You'll notice I have like feathers in vases and flowers in vases. They last forever, and they're really cool. The Pedro Friedeberg chair, we have a pair of these. There's another one upstairs. And Pedro Friedeberg is another one of my all-time favorite artists. And I'm so happy to own these surreal, trippy, and iconic chairs. So I think, you know, you just throw in a Pedro Friedeberg chair and you can't go wrong with it. And I love, you know, gold with Tiffany blue. Hanging chairs always and everywhere, always and everywhere. Like, a house is not a home without a hanging chair. And then on on the console next to the telly, there's a collection of acrylic pills that I make. So the acrylic pills, I make these are part of my collection, and I just think that, your home's decor and the accessories that you surround yourself with should make you seem much more interesting and much more louche than you actually are. Like, Simon and I are basically straight edge. We are the two most clean living, boring, ascetic people you will ever meet, or be lucky enough not to meet, because we would probably bore you to death. However, if you were to come into our house, you would think you were in the home of two louche, subversive, provocative, hedonists. Not true, but I think the pills capture the vibe. So on our coffee table are these really cool things. I call them Oscar bowls. I hand make the models in my studio in New York, and they're brass bowls inspired by the architecture of Oscar Niemeyer, who did Brasilia, and I kind of wanted them to feel almost like jewelry settings, and they're sort of like cocktail rings for my cocktail table, and I am madly in love with them. As I am with all the stuff I make, I must stop saying that, but I can't help it. An Aldo Tora bar is a must in every home, I always say, said the boy from New Jersey. But I do love an Aldo Tora lacquered goatskin bar. I love this little trippy bit of 60s surrealist painting. And I love these two little bird bowls I made. They're sterling silver, and they kind of are like lovebirds, and they're just very, very sweet, as well as having beautiful lines. So the kitchen. It was kind of just a big white suburban kitchen with these fantastic Pecky cypress ceilings. And in keeping with the spirit of the house, I wanted it to be colorful. So we painted it this deep, rich blue. And I made these kind of surreal, giant acrylic bowls. So this is where we keep fruit and veg. And it's just kind of surreal blue with hits of color. And behind me, Simon wanted a kitchen nook that reminded him of England. So we kind of created, like, I guess we kind of call it the Carnaby kitchen. And we just took these vintage tea towels from England and framed them. So it's kind of like a nod to England. A baronial brass hanging shandy that I make, that I am mad for. And then, because it's supposed to be English, we had our friend John Paul Philippe, the painter who's done a lot of stuff in the house. We said, take this old bamboo chinoiserie tortoise cabinet and back paint the glass with English-inspired motifs, as one does. And then it is all sort of ruled over by this vintage 60s Italian ceramic king. And yeah, it's just kind of red, white, and blue, English, groovy, 60s swinging, Carnaby, cool kitchen. You know, living with a Brit, as I have for a long time, I've become really pretentious, kind of like when Madonna lived in England and got an English accent. And so now I find myself using English words and sayings casually and effortlessly, and probably embarrassingly. So, you know, I call it brekkie for breakfast, and instead of a cup of tea, it's a cuppa. So I'm Madonna. We were in Guatemala and we were in some souvenir shop, and there was kind of like this dusty dead stock section, and these are like really old little Guatemalan souvenirs, and we found them, we bought all of them, and I love looking at them as I do the dishes because I am a homemaker. This little nook is, I sit here and kind of read and do my emails, and my idea for this beaded artwork was to kind of take like this Renaissance lady and kind of flip her. So, you know, you'll see it's divided in half, and her background is here with just her in silhouette there, and then there is the Renaissance lady. And again, that's done by this artisan in India who sees the world in beads, and his skill and artistry blows my mind. It's so extraordinary. I'm so lucky to get to work with him.
Come in. Welcome to my office. And this is where I do all my writing. And I'm very lucky because not many people get a second career. I had my career window dressing, art directing, retail, fashion. And then in my late 40s, I pivoted and I began writing. I've written 10 books. I've done hundreds of newspaper columns. So I'm very lucky to have had a second career of writing. And this is where it all happens. So yes, my books. This is one of my best-selling ones, The History of Drag. The proceeds benefit the Ali Forney Center. History of Drag going back to ancient China, ancient Egypt. New book, The Camp 100. All about the history of camp. Glorious flamboyance from Louis XIV to Lil Nas X. Camp. The poster in it meaning something or other. All right. So this is a needlepoint that my mother did. It's Liz Taylor by Andy Warhol by Betty Doonan, my mother. So she needlepointed that. It's kind of fabulous. Roxanne Lowett's portrait of Holston. Roxanne Lowett, R.I.P., major photographer in New York City. And she gave me that print and I treasure it. So this is my little office where I try and keep my creative juices flowing and stay active and an active senior. Once in a while, one becomes terribly fatigued from writing. So I lay down or just pose on here and have a little resty poo. I don't even know why these are here. These are Saint Laurent, men. I know, men. It's very Kurt Cobain, right?
I think probably one of the most kind of ironic and funny and strange things about us being here in Palm Beach is that neither of us was born into Palm Beach richesse at all. We've both had sort of very improbable and delightful journeys only in America.
Yeah, I mean, I was born after the war in England. We lived in a really tiny flat. My parents, my sister and I, no kitchen and bathroom. I mean, it was just very different landscape back then. So yeah, I've come a long way, but you know, through work and resilience. Resilience is very important. Not to get discouraged, keep going, stick-to-itedness. You know, I was at Barney's for 35 years. So
yeah, I think what Simon's not, I mean, Simon's childhood, as I understand it, was almost like out of a Dickens novel. Like his parents met in a soup kitchen after World War II, and they lived in a rooming house with his lobotomized schizophrenic grandmother, his schizophrenic uncle, his blind aunt, and they had no money, and you can read all about it in his sizzling comic memoir, Beautiful People, which is such a brilliant book. I reread it like once a year. It's incredible. But, you know, he kind of grew up in post-war poverty. Would you say that's fair enough?
Oh, yeah. But it was rough for everybody back then. So we weren't singled out for special treatment.
Right.
And my parents both fought in the World War II. They were in the Royal Air Force. My dad, when he was 16, joined the Royal Air Force. And so, you know, they were the great generation, very different, no complaining.
But not so Palm Beachy.
Not so Palm Beachy. But my mom loved glamour and luxury. She used to love the movies, and she was very much focused on making the most of her appearance all the time. Even when she was working 3 jobs, I never saw her without hair and makeup and all done. And you know, she wore a long line girdle, even though she was skinny. That's how people, you know, because for her that was very life affirming, to present yourself a certain way. And if you think about it, when people get depressed, their environment and their appearance are the first thing to go. You know, so keeping a fab, glamorous home and pulling your look together is very life affirming and very positive.
Yeah, and I grew up in a tiny farm town in southern New Jersey, very, very small, very rural, and, you know, not so Palm Beachy. And I fell in love with pottery at summer camp when I was 12. And in my tiny farm town, in the basement of our house, we kind of lived in a groovy modern house. And in the basement, I'd set up a pottery studio, and I spent my entire adolescence just making pots at home, and always wanted to be a potter, but never thought that I could be a potter and a Palm Beacher. But cut to moi now, only in America. Like, it's kind of incredible. The Clouds by Remo Saraceni are kind of the signature move of the staircase, and the giant acrylic mushrooms and the trippy multi-patterned rug. If Simon gets a little tired, he can just have a little perch on the mushroom. Much needed. And then the magic of the upstairs happens.
Come into my closet. I'm back in the closet. So here are my basic 3 looks. I like a flowery shirt, very mod, very 60s. I love Western, fringes, cowboy shirts. And these are some sort of random gems from the my Barney's era, when I got a nice discount on designer purchases. Gucci, Saint Laurent, more Western. This is a groovy Western shirt by an American company called Rourke. Tough as nails, great label. So I had to have that, it's genius. And then I have a killer selection of Saint Laurent sneakers, which I'm particularly fond of. These are great. Glam rock kind of situation, got lots of them. Still buy them on The Real and Vestiaire and those sites. You're probably wondering about these. Years ago, we did a marketing thing for the holidays at Barney's where I was dressed up as the cranky elf, and I went around asking people what they wanted for the holidays, and then the cranky elf would like get it for them, and I was always very impatient. That's why we call it the cranky elf, like, come on, hurry up, tell me what you want for the holidays. You can look at those videos on YouTube. They're quite silly, but they're actually weirdly effective. I just assumed you all knew about this gnome. Philippe Starck designed these, the great, incredible genius Philippe Starck, whose sensibility is so playful and so elastic that it allowed him to design these incredible gnome stools. And I'm mad for them. They came out years ago, but I think they're just so clever because they're irreverent and silly, but they're also weirdly chic. Where are we, Johnny?
We are in our bedroom. And I guess the main thing about it is that it's lavender. Right?
The other main thing about it is that guess who monopolizes the bed?
A certain somebody, the queen of the house. Oh. Yeah, it's lavender. And how would you describe the vibe of this room?
I think it's pretty trippy and fun and gorgeous and like super glamorous and more clubby. It's almost clubby.
It's it's kind of Paul Smith store vibes.
Yeah.
Because there's a mix of old and new. Like I think the Gothic mirror is something that we've had since Simon bought it when we first met, and it kind of has gone with us from house to house.
Bought it in Miami, took it to New York for 25 years, and now we've schlepped it back down here again. So yeah, that's very Paul Smithy.
Yeah,
You're right.
It adds a bit of like baronial splendor to the most modern spaces. So there is a baronial vibe, and I think one of my favorite things we have the ceramic dog.
This was a gift from Michael Kors. Yes, the incredible designer. Love him, and he has a great sense of humor, as exemplified by this gift.
And now this poodle stares at itself forevermore.
Terribly vain poodle.
Yeah, it's a very, very vain poodle. We love these Rougier lamps. These are vintage Rougier lamps from whenever they're from, 70s or 80s?
Yeah.
Very groovy, kind of a must, vintage Rougier.
They're like an incredible flower that's just plastic, but it looks so majestic and so brilliant.
And then there's this really groovy painting of Sly Stone that's done by one of my favorite painters of all time, Ed Paschke. And that was originally in the Playboy Mansion. I think it's from 1974. So it's a pretty great day when you wake up in the morning and have Sly Stone greeting you with a smile and a trippy purple outfit.
Yeah, good morning, Sly.
Good morning, Sly. And then there's this groovy Harajuku girl.
This is done by
Thomas Card.
Thomas Card, an old friend of mine who used to shoot a lot of cosmetics, and then he started shooting these very interesting fashion eccentrics in Tokyo. So yeah, so we say good morning, Sly, and then we say good morning, Tokyo fashion eccentric.
Yeah, and then we say hello to a bit of whatchamacallit.
This is the great Peggy Moffat, who's an
R.I.P.
iconic 60s model.
She's like the grooviest model, and she was an old
with
friend
the
of
Vidal,
Simon's.
Vidal Sassoon.
And I did this needlepoint pillow as an homage to Peggy Moffat.
The great Peggy.
And then this is one of my chairs that we upholstered in Joseph Frank upholstery, because I think no home is complete without a bit of Joseph Frank, always. And I think maybe the pièce de résistance is Simon. Simon's the pièce de résistance. And
so we were at the flea market when we first met, and there was this $10 bust of Michael Jackson, and we snatched it up. We've had it ever since. People think, oh, it's a Jeff Koons or something like that, but it was just plaster, and we got it in the flea market.
Oh, and then the other pièce de résistance is...
Well, at Barney's, when stores open, store close, we would accumulate all these props and things, and then we'd have a sale. And I bought this at one of the Barney's sales, and it was brass, and it was destined for an Hermes boutique, but it didn't get there in time to be set into the floor. So we used it as a window prop for decades, and then I bought it at the prop sale.
Yeah, so like a little Hermes crest.
Beautifully made. That's all cut brass. It's incredible.
And it kind of looks perfect over this doorway. It's like almost reason enough to buy the house.
Come into the bathroom. Oh, look, Peggy Moffat's in here too.
So I'm trying to think of what the focus of this bathroom might be.
Is there any object that's dominating the space?
I can't really think of it. It's just sort of blah.
Like a sculptural...
There should have been
bit
a focal
of
point.
Madness, a focal point.
That's where we screwed up.
Oh, wait.
Oh, look, there is a focal point.
Where did you find this, Johnny? I can't remember.
My hero of heroes was Bjorn Windblad, the Danish ceramicist. who is just an incredible potter who made work that was both eccentric and chic and joyful and figural and fun.
And sort of folkloric.
Yeah, he made like folkloric chic and he made chic folkloric.
This is also Windblad.
Yeah, so this is like kind of a Windblad room.
Windblad.
And I found this at an antique store in Dallas. He had actually, I think, made this for Neiman Marcus or for a hotel in Dallas. And I just thought, like, I have just the spot for it and it will spark joy. And then, of course, she has peacock feathers in her head. And we wake up, we look at Sly Stone, we come look at the Windblad lady with her peacock feathers.
Say hi to Peggy.
Say hi to Peggy, and of course Foxy Lady always, and it's a good morning always. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she's like, it's as if she was made for this spot. We have big windows, and we don't have curtains in here, so we have my Riviera mirrors that are just perfectly centered over the window, and I am a big fan of not being afraid to cover up windows when it works. So these are our mirrors, and there's our Windblad.
Come outside.
Come outside. So this is like the little patio off of our bathroom, which is a nifty reading nook. We have a lot of reading nooks. Luckily, we are both huge readers, so they do come in handy.
I can keep an eye on you when you're in the outdoor shower.
Yes, it's yeah, we can easily spy on guests taking an outdoor shower, so anybody who has the misfortune to be invited here, beware. You will be spied upon.
That wasn't intentional. I don't want you to think
it was an
we're
accident.
Unsavory.
And then this is where Simon comes out of an evening and does Tai Chi, which I find super embarrassing because I think Tai Chi looks ridiculous. And so sometimes I'll come out here and I'll find my husband and he's all like he'll be behind me and he's all like, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's doing Tai Chi. Mm-hmm. So hopefully no one can see. It's embarrassing. And it's a really cool view of our Kaufman House inspired pool.
I have to go up a bit on this one. There.
And yeah, it's a great hang.
This is strangely relaxing, and it feels great.
It does actually, doesn't it? Not that we do this when we're off camera.
Do try this at home.
Yeah, this is kind of just an unexpected little nook. I feel like Suzanne Summers. Thigh mastering.
Yeah.
It actually is kind of great.
And look, Florida, look at those gorgeous palm trees.
Isn't it crazy? Like again, Simon from rainy England, me from New Jersey, and now we have palm trees. Like I didn't see that coming. Here we are.
And bananas. Did you show them
Yeah,
the
I showed them the
banana tree?
bananas. That to me is the most magical part of our life.
Yep.
The banana era. Yeah, we've entered our banana era.
Then we can do bicycling.
It's actually very pleasant.
Yeah, I think we've invented a new
Fitness craze.
What should we call it? Wungling or tangling or something.
I think wungling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we could do this could double as an exercise video.
Yeah.
It's the first episode
But then
of the
what
wungling.
would we sell? We'd have to sell wungling outfits.
I think we could invent a signature shoe that links. It could be two shoes that link together for wungling. This is a really tough workout, like thigh master, schmy master.
It's a good thing I did Pilates this morning.
So welcome to our minty fresh guest bedroom.
Minty fresh with some flashes of yellow. How did you come up with this concept, Johnny?
I don't know, it just kind of felt like a bit of lemon sorbet, which I think is what Palm Beach should feel like. There is a lot of yellow in this house, and I think it is because it's like lemon sorbet for the soul. So this room is I guess the main feature is this gigantic Paul Evans 4-poster bed that we've had forever.
And we got in Florida years ago.
Yeah, and now it's here. And I had this custom cover made, again, hand beaded by a genius artisan in India with just eyes all over it. And an eye pillow. And then our friend Jean-Paul Philippe painted these two abstract eyes that hang over the bed. And yeah, there's just a lot of eyes looking at you in this room. And another Jean-Paul picture. He did the screen. And
My contribution, I guess, is either side of the bed is a stack of Barbara Cartland romantic novels, which are almost unreadable, but hilarious. If you're of a certain age and you remember Barbara Cartland, she was the Jackie Collins of the day. And then under this table is the head of Prince. And this is one of the relics from my era at Barney's. It was made by Martha King, a great sculptress who did these wonderful celebrity caricatures for Barney's. And there it is. And it was one of the things that I bought at one of the Barney's display sales and kept as a relic of my fabulous Barney's era Prince.
So I think if you were like a guest coming to stay with us, you'd be pretty stoked. You have a Paul Evans four-poster bed. You have as much Barbara Cartland as you could possibly read in a weekend. And you have His Purple Highness, albeit decapitated, but there, which brings joy.
And you might even get this too.
Yes.
Into the bargain, no extra charge.
Oh. And you have a lot of eyes. So yeah, this is the guest room. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to be a potter and never thought that was a viable career choice. So I tried to work in the movie business, and I got fired from my first job for various reasons. I got fired from my second job for various reasons. And I got fired from my third job, and then I realized I was 27. I was broke. I was apparently unemployable. And I remembered that I always wanted to be a potter. And I thought, you know, the world is telling me that I'm not fit for purpose and I can't really be in the world as an employed person. I thought maybe I should just be a potter, and you know, at least I'll be able to express myself. And then my very benevolent parents, who had kind of been, you know, supporting me, though I was 27, said to me, like, you know, you went to Brown for college, like, you should either make a living with a job or sell a pot. And so through a friend of a friend, I found a connection at Barney's. They placed an order, and suddenly I went from being like a broke-ass, unemployed and unemployable person to a potter who had a chance. And I just, something switched overnight, and I became an animal and just started, like, I was in the studio 24 hours a day, more like 14 hours a day, truly, 7 days a week. And I started a cottage industry, and when I blasted into Simon's life, I was about a year into it, and I was just sort of this crazed, mad potter. And now here we are. I think if people were to see my life now, in which I have stores and I do decorating projects and make like a million different products, they would assume A, that I had a plan, or B, that I had a backer, or I don't know. People just assume things. The truth is, it's all been completely accidental. I've figured it out over the years, and everything I've done has been in the pursuit of my ability to be creative. And I know that sounds sort of Pollyannish and annoying, and if I were listening to myself, I would probably hate me, but it's true. That's kind of it. I'm an accidental.
That's a little harsh on yourself, Johnny. No one's going to hate you.
I'm an accidental entrepreneur, and I think one of the things that's really remarkable about both Slyman, as I affectionately call him, and myself is that we both have really just kind of pursued creative lives and have been extraordinarily lucky. Like, one can never overestimate the power of luck. So creative and
resilience.
Lucky. And resilience. All right, so now let me tell you about the outside. We kind of wanted to balance a bunch of different things for the outside. I mean, the interesting thing is the house itself is this incredible 1940 Maurice Fatio house, and it kind of felt like a folly. We wanted to create a sense of place. We wanted it to reflect us, and so I guess I would say the outside vibe is sort of like Palm Beach meets Palm Springs meets English country, if that makes any sense. It doesn't, but let me explain. I guess, you know, Palm Beach, it has a sense of place. We are in Palm Beach. The Palm Springsiness, you know, is another palm that's near and dear to my heart. And I think you'll see it with some of the slightly more mid-century modern graphics, like we put in these groovy white pavers. There's just kind of a Palm Springs modernist vibe, and you especially see it in the pool, which is sort of a quote, in a funny way, of the iconic Kaufman House in Palm Springs. With that, I can't remember what the photograph is called, but the Slim Aarons Kaufman House photograph is sort of what inspired this pool area, with the lemon yellow umbrella, and you'll see some lemon yellow pads, like some lemon yellow cushions, and we just went very classic modern with Richard Schultz furniture, which never gets old. And a lot of my planters, like this groovy planter, which has kind of a Palm Springs vibe with the white and yellow. We want it to be very crisp and modern outside. And one of the biggest and most unexpected treats about living in Palm Beach is right here, bananas. What? Like, my husband Simon kind of grew up in grinding poverty in rainy England. I'm from a tiny farm town in the Northeast, and now we have bananas, bitch. Like, it's like, pinch me, I cannot believe I'm a person with bananas. These will be ripe in about a month, and then I will pivot from being a potter decorator to being a full-time banana bread manufacturer, because they'll all become ripe. I'll have like 100 bananas that I need to deal with, and I will basically like get on my bike and deliver banana breads to all the neighbors, whether they like it or not, because I have to deal with these bananas. But I just can't believe I have bananas. It's so cool. Moving right along, the bougainvillea hasn't taken yet, but eventually the bougainvillea will take over this whole part of the house. And, you know, even though the palette for the house outside is really just green, like, you know, we didn't do any like colors, we didn't even do flowers. It's just sort of a green mixed landscape. But there will be, you know, the fuchsia of bougainvillea, which is really cool. And in terms of the English landscaping vibe, it's kind of a strange thing, and people might not see it immediately, but when I think of English landscaping, I think of sort of wildness and mixed greenery, and not being overly manicured. And I think you kind of get that sense in the outside. It has a very jungly feel of really mixed plantings, which is really cool. And of course, gives a nod to my Simon's Englishness. And then this is my hang. The hanging chair here is like a super chill place just to sit and read, and I do Zoom calls and run my business from here, and it just seems crazy, and I feel so #blessed that I get to be in this beautiful natural environment while talking to my colleagues and designing stuff. And it's just a wild reflection of how the world can be now, courtesy of technology. I can be in beautiful nature using technology to live my life. The umbrella, a simple umbrella, became like the anchor of our outside life. It's from Santa Barbara Umbrella Company, which is like the Rolls Royce of umbrellas. It's so great. And I had no idea how much it would what a strong presence it would have, but here it is, ever so present, and I cannot resist some lemon yellow. You'll see a lot of yellow on the outside of our house. Our outdoor shower is basically the only shower. I just shower in this incredible thing. It's called the Nordic Seashell, and it's this Norwegian company that makes this beautiful kind of Nautilus outdoor shower that's just so magical. And again, Simon from rainy England, me from tiny farm town, showering outside under a palm tree in Palm Beach. I cannot believe it. So one of the biggest transformations we did to this house is this bit. This is like, basically when we got to the house, it was sort of this little tiny like kind of back alley sliver that was kind of just nothing was going on here. There was almost like dirt. And so we turned it into what we call Lemon Alley. Don't ask me why, I guess we use a lot of yellow. And what's really cool about it is we were inspired by Palm Beach itself. On Worth Avenue in Palm Beach, there's these very famous little things called villas, which almost feel like Italian little alleys that are very like ornate, and they're kind of one of the anchoring elements of Palm Beach. So we were inspired to create this little sliver and make it very livable. So we have our outdoor dining happens here in Lemon Alley with simple string lights that kind of just give it a low-key, twinkly vibe. Great. We have dinner parties here all the time, which is so nice. These pots, which are my new favorite pots of mine, not that I play favorites, but are these cobalt animals that have this unbelievably beautiful blue glaze. And so I rushed to my studio and made these incredible kind of modernist sculptures in this really electric cobalt. And so they have pride of place on the table in Lemon Alley, and I love how cobalt and lemon yellow work together. This is kind of where we set up buffets for dinner, so it's sort of between the dining table and the kitchen. So yeah, it's like a very casual buffet kind of a situation here. And I love, Lemon Alley is one of my favorite things about the house, because we took what was just a tiny sort of forgotten sliver and turned it into this kind of magical little place that we use all the time and absolutely love. I cook, Simon cleans. Before the pandemic, I was kind of just like, you know, a normal urban guy. I was just working all the time. But during the pandemic, I basically became a prairie woman. If someone says to me, like on a plane, oh, what do you do? I basically just say I'm a homemaker, because I'm a homemaker. I cook all the meals for my Simon. I live to like tidy the house and like make the bed. It's actually been incredible being a homemaker. I'm like this far away from basically darning Simon's socks. Like it is trad wife o'clock up in this bitch.
I love the fact that it always feels very upbeat and positive and glamorous. So even on a gloomy, rainy, thundery day, it always feels like this little eccentric hideaway. It's gorgeous. And people do walk in and say, boy, you did this just for you.
Simon's written how many books? 10? And
basically Dostoevsky. No. Pop culture, fun, style, fashion-y.
10 books, but one of my favorite of his oeuvre is a book called Eccentric, Glamour. And I think that those two words, eccentric, glamour, are exactly what I think life should be and what I think our house is. I think it's idiosyncratic and personal. Eccentric is about being idiosyncratic and personal. And glamour, I think, is a really, really difficult word to define. People throw it around willy-nilly, but no one really thinks about what it means. To me, glamour is about being memorable and confident, and I think really it's about a sense of swagger. So I think that this house captures the ethos of eccentric glamour. It's idiosyncratic and personal. It is riddled with swagger, and we kind of just dig it. Everything in here means something to us. Like nothing in this house is here because it's just stuff. It's like I can look at every single object, piece of furniture, and it has a story. It has meaning. I think a lot of people just kind of like, a lot of things in people's houses are just stuff. And I have always sort of believed that everything you surround yourself with should trigger an emotion and should have some meaning. And I think we kind of did that. Off to the beach. So we're just going to the beach, which is like a 30-second walk from our house, and it's incredible. And Foxy goes in every day and gambles about
and it's her happiest place on earth.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.